where the sea meets a rock pool at the bottom of a waterfall, where the waterfall falls from a river at the edge of a cliff, where the river runs past the castle ruins and the gardens and into the forest. The rocks piled high against the terracotta and chalk, contrasting with the deep blue, grey and mossy green highlights of the rocks cascading down onto the sandy beach below, almost covering it completely and moving around the corner of the cliff. The rocks look like they almost disappear into the sea, with only a small stream of water breaking through. Not big enough for a fish, but snails and crabs can get through. The rocks surround the rock pool in almost a picture-perfect circle, piled high, creating an element of privacy for the people that skinny dip and swim there. The rock pool's water has an almost teal-green hue that differentiates it from the sea. It might be the magic of the village the river comes from embedding itself in the water. Or maybe someone poured green paint into it. It looks like it shouldn't be real. The darkness of the rocks and the teal of the water seem dull compared to the glittering pale bronze of the sand, with flecks of gold that come from the light flickering off of the sea glass embedded in the sand. It never hurts your feet. You never accidentally step on a shell or a small sharp stone that the North Sea tide brought in. When you walk barefoot on the sand, it's never too hot and never too cold. I guess it helps that the majority of the time the sun doesn't hit the northern coastline of the most northeastern point of the Norfolk coast. The stairs running up the cliff almost moulding into the chalk and terracotta walls, showing their age, but you know they were there long after the castle turned to ruins. The metal bars of the rails contrast against the pale peach and beige and almost fade against the red and amber of the chalk and terracotta. That layers split the cliff in half as you walk up, feeling the edges of the layers upon layers. Not sharp enough to cut, but enough to hurt your hand if you press down. The stairs aren't made of wood, but you can tell they are old enough they need to be protected by the wooden slabs, otherwise they would crumble. The metal runs cold under your hand as you walk up. The waterfall's water cascades down as you ascend. The sound isn't as deafening as you would think, but also isn't as quiet as a trickle. Through the water you get glimpses of the cliff's colours, almost creating a rainbow within the water. Your head finally starts to peek above the cliff, and you are immediately met with green. Not a single patch of faded sun-bleached grass in sight. The long grass pressed down at the top of the stairs, making a man-made path that runs off at 3 points. Northeast towards the edge of the cliff, southwest down the side of the cliff and along the outskirts of the forest, and a southeastern path that lays out a safe way through the forest, past the castle ruins and gardens towards the town. Taking the southwestern path, you walk past the end of one of the castle gardens. Carrying on further down the path is the forest that surrounds the castle. The trees almost come to the edge, just leaving a gap of around 10 feet between the edge of the cliff and the tree line. As you walk down the path, you can almost feel how it descends. Looking further on, you can see the seaside beach of the town, the ice cream stand and the changing rooms that line the edge. Alongside the river, the southeastern path is different. Instead of squished down grass, a long straight dirt path is in front of you that carries through into the forest towards the town on the other side. The two gardens ahead, separated by another dirt path that connects the castle ruins and the old stone bridge to the forest next to the coastline, are filled to the brim with every kind of flower you can think of, from pale blue chrysanthemums to pink carnations. The flowers are laid out in a way that the colours and kinds of flowers create a beautiful mosaic pattern that can be seen in full from above. Both gardens showcasing a different pattern, just as beautiful as each other, however, cannot deter your eyes from the spectacle of the forest ahead of you. The tall trees that protect the castle and gardens completely concealing it from the town, welcoming enough to make you feel safe walking down the candlelit path, but also intimidating enough to warn you off from snooping at night. Taking the northeast path, you cross a small wooden rope bridge that goes over the river that falls over the edge onto the beach below. The bridge has been modified over the years to be more stable, and so it is high enough so in case of flood in the town, the river won't overflow onto the bridge. Crossing over, you see another garden, but this one is slightly different from the others. This one is filled with wildflowers of every kind, filled with purples and yellows as well as dark pinks and blues. But you can tell that the gardens are well looked after and kept. Next to it are the large remains of the Gothic castle that once stood on the cliff. The arches at the entry look like they were freshly carved, but the emptiness above shows its true age, along with discoloured stones that make up the walls and towers at each corner. On the far side of the castle, on the southern side of the cliff, you can see another garden, but it's structured like a maze in the centre. Not one with tall walls that tower over your head, but at least 5 foot 6 inches. Around it, it's similar to the other garden space, filled with flowers as well as an allotment space for people from the nearby town to use and grow herbs and vegetables for food as well as potions and brews. As you walk along to the point of the cliff, you see the remnants of a picnic from the people who ran down to the beach after you came up. You can imagine the romantic moments that have happened here, looking out over the cliff edge at the endless sea that never meets land. The young and old, people who have lived here all their lives, and people looking for a new adventure, losing themselves in the endless blue sea. You draw your attention back to the lack of horizon where the sky meets the sea, casting its amber hue on the blue water, and you can see where the sea meets a rock pool at the bottom of a waterfall, where the waterfall falls from a river at the edge of a cliff, where the river runs past the castle ruins and gardens and into the forest. Yay, I'm done!